Hello to all of you who are joining. We're really happy to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you.
While we start, I have a Mentimeter here that you can use to tell us how are you doing today? How are you feeling today? So, and here's the code that you will find here in the chat. So if you can go there, you will be.
So if you can click on the chat and there is a link, if you can click on the link, it will take you to a Mentimeter and we want to know how you are doing. Hi, Randy.
Hi.
We cannot hear you.
Hi, everyone. So many familiar faces on the call. This is great.
Yes.
Come on.
Okay.
Hi, Susan. Hi, Erica.
Hello.
So, asking how is everyone doing through this Mentimeter. If you haven't used it, let us know. But you go into the chat and Ellie, maybe you want to do it again. Maybe you want to copy it again.
Yes.
And if you click on it, then, oh, somebody is okay, somebody is curious, excited, happy, peaceful.
There you can see it on the chat again. Nostalgic. Oh. Curious, empowered, lovely. So for those of you that just arrived, we are asking you, how are you doing today? How are you feeling today? We're really happy to host you to have this conversation today on International Day of Peace. We're gonna have a great conversation. We have great panelists here today with us, female empowered women. They're part of our network, and we're really happy to have a conversation with them about what it means to innovate, and also to the different challenges that we have in the different sectors where they are working and personally during this pandemic. So I'm gonna paste one last time here the Mentimeter so that you can participate and let us know how are you feeling today.
We have 75 people who registered, so we are just giving it a few more minutes before we start. So due to technology or Wi-Fi connections for some of our alumni or scholars, we want to make sure that we give everybody enough time to log in. Hi, Ify. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for some. And happy International Day of Peace.
Long day. Yeah, we are here in different time zones. So for some, it's been a long day. Hopefully it's been a good day, even though it's been long. So again, for those of you that just arrived here on the Mentimeter, we're sharing, on the chat, we're sharing a Menti link, so you can tell us how are you feeling today. And you can see a lot of people are feeling excited and happy, peaceful, energetic, tired, euphoric, curious, excited, loved, calm. That's really beautiful. Great. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to start introducing our session. So we're really happy to have you all here. As you saw in the link for this session, today we are starting a conversation that celebrates International Peace Day. And this celebration is not gonna only happen today, which is International Peace Day, but throughout the week. And we are really happy about the opportunity to have conversations with our alumni from different parts of the world on different topics. And the reason why we decided to have this open conversation is because we have a huge network of alumni who had been doing amazing work for so many years. And it's time for us to open a space as a platform for all of you to share your work, to share your lessons learned, questions, challenges, and just to have an opportunity also to meet with each other across different programs and across different cohorts. So for today, what we're gonna have is a conversation specifically on female power. But before we start that conversation, what we're gonna have is a very brief introduction about the Global Alumni Initiative. And then we're gonna share a video that was created with the input of our alumni from different parts of the world. So I'm gonna share my screen here. Yes, can you all see it? Yes, okay.
Yes, we see it.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, it's just when I'm sharing like this, I cannot see the pictures. As I was sharing beforehand, this is an activity that we have co-organized from the Global Alumni Initiative and the Co-Scholars Program. And these are two programs that are part of Initiatives of Change USA. And most of you know for many years the Co-Scholars, but haven't heard or have heard a little about GAIN, and that's what I would like to introduce first. So GAIN, or the Global Alumni Initiative, is a new program, fairly recent, that started in February last year as part of the IofC USA office, national office. And the main goal of GAIN is to be a platform. So actually to be a space where our alumni can take the lead and can share, as I was telling beforehand, about their work, to connect with each other, to have the opportunity to share with us what they have been doing and to connect across the different programs. GAIN is bringing together alumni that are part of the co-scholar programs, Asia Plateau and Switzerland. And here we have Jitka, that is the academic director, sorry, the program director of CSP. But GAIN doesn't stop there. It also brings together the alumni from the Community Trust Building Fellowship and the Narrative Change Collaborative, which are two programs that are based in the US. We have started the connection between GAIN and CSP, and we look forward to continuing that connection with CTF and NCC, the Narrative Change Collaborative. But something that unites us all alumni, and I say all because I am also an alumni of the Co-Scholars Program, is that we are leaders and initiators in our own right. And we have had the opportunity to come together to the different programs and to share different experiences, be it at AP or at Switzerland. So when you think about GAIN, I wanted to think of it as either CSP AP or CSP in Switzerland or CTF and NCC online. So it's the space for us to share with each other, to learn from each other, to empower each other, and basically to continue to encourage the work that we do in peace building and changing structures and also challenging different narratives, acting locally while thinking globally. So here, I'm gonna share a bit more about what do we do. As I was sharing beforehand, the idea is that GAIN is a platform that supports alumni who are doing this very important work of transforming the world and challenging the power structures and hierarchies that up until now have, that's my cat saying hello to all of you, that up until now have kept people in different localities either oppressed or in conflict. And that is for us very important to have this space for connection and where we can feel again that our batteries and our energy is renewed. Who are we? I mean, GAIN is a very large network. We are 1,000+ alumni from the different programs that I shared. So the CSP programs, the CTF and the NCC. We are present in 109 countries, and we hope that we all will connect in this global platform. And the way we do it is through different levels. So working personally on our own personal processes, reflection, silent time, meditation. However, each member of the network wants to call that personal space. Then relational to the programs that we have that bring people together, and also on a systemic level, specifically just working in problems and challenges that are global, but that require that we look at those systems that we need to transform. So that's briefly what GAIN is all about. And I have to say that it wouldn't have been possible to have all of these activities of this week without the support of Chitka. So I'm really thankful to her, and also two alumni who are part of our program, our team, that are Rohit Balecha from India and Charanpreet Kaira, who is from India and the UK. But now I want to share a video that we put all together, alumni from the Co-Scholars program. And we were asking our alumni, what does togetherness mean in the midst of the pandemic? And this was a process to bring this video all together, and it's a 5 minutes video, so I'm going to share it here. And this is basically showing what is the energy that is behind all of our alumni, and which are the ways in which we are coming together and supporting each other during this pandemic. So I'm going to share my screen.
This is the first time that all of us are stuck in the exactly same crisis.
Things haven't been easy here.
I too am feeling the same.
This year is very difficult for everyone.
The coronavirus era is a very hard time for everyone.
Crazy times we live in.
The world is facing is
We're all affected by that same issue.
Isolation and physical distancing are new to many of us.
We may be apart, but doesn't mean we have to go through things alone.
For all of us, togetherness means unity in adversity.
Togetherness means being strong.
Togetherness, being so far, yet being so close.
That we belong to each other.
Togetherness is the aspect of empathy and sympathy.
We need to put ourselves in the shoes of others.
Because when you feel others, you will become responsible towards them.
Build connections of solidarity.
Being companions, helpers, and supporters of each other.
To survive and show compassion to our family and friends.
It is necessary that we fight it as a family.
To mitigate crises of any size.
To be open to giving and receiving help.
Standing up for each other.
I am conscious about maintaining my inner peace
is what keeps me healthy.
Taking care of myself, my family and the community.
Enhance inner peace within myself and spread peace among others.
You can't give to the others what you don't have.
I have been doing a lot of meditation and introspection.
Try to set healthy boundaries for your well-being.
Be motivated, inspired by the moment.
We all can be more fragile without having that sense of togetherness in us.
Rediscovering the love of family and closest people.
Reaching out to each other and extending care and compassion.
None of us is safe until all of us are safe.
Togetherness to me means being a part of something larger than myself.
That builds solidarity.
Giving a voice to the voiceless.
Using our skill set, helping people around the world, around our communities.
To ensure that the most disadvantaged Roma communities have access to basic food and hygiene products.
Togetherness in this global pandemic means spreading love and positivity.
Make little things to bring joy to other people and kids.
Taking in consideration everyone's capacity and capability to create peace.
There is no peace if there is no justice.
In togetherness, we promote and build peace.
We must create togetherness without actually being together.
We're more interconnected than we even think.
Thanks to the internet, let us maintain and grow the bonds of our communities.
By connecting with my friends via social media.
These tools that can keep us connected.
Together we can achieve more.
I believe in the healing power of community.
We need to be strong and supportive so we can lift up and rise.
Being together is more important than staying together.
Even though we may not be able to stand next to each other, we can still dream together.
Creating history together.
And a collective walk towards a shared future.
We thrive when we commit to do better for each other.
We may live far from each other and be of different nationalities, religions, races, and generations, but our destinies are tied together like never before in human history.
No matter what happens, there is still hope and there is still light.
Super.
This is just those who submit their videos on time. We have many more. Yes. So we definitely want to thank to all of you who sent your videos. It was a great task to put them together, and we're really grateful to Rohit, who is the multimedia resident for GAIN, who worked tirelessly for almost 2 weeks to put this video together. And there's so much more content, so I want you to know that this is just the first episode. If you didn't see your video, it's because we are putting it together for another chapter. But this is the way we also wanted to celebrate this day, International Day of Peace, because there are different ways in which we can shape peace together. And one of those ways is through female power and working with women and supporting each other. So I'm gonna ask Jitka to introduce our panelists, and I'm gonna share again my screen, because here. So Jitka, if you could please introduce our panelists for today's conversation on female power.
It's my honor to introduce four alumni from different countries. So here we have Soraya from Afghanistan from Co-Scholars 2019. Mafas she joined our Co-Scholars program in India in 2018 from Iraq. Ifi from Nigeria, she was a Co-Scholar in 2014. And Indi from 2016 from Sri Lanka. I'm not going to go into their bios because in the sake of time, I think that they will say a little bit about themselves right now when we ask them to speak. But I'm honored to have them, and I'm grateful for their time. So should we start with our panel discussion and maybe ask Ifi? Ifi?
Yes, hi, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the question?
Please say a few words about who you are and about the topic of female power.
Sure. My name is Ifi Malo. I'm a 2004 scholar. And I work in Nigeria in the energy access and climate change sector. And, you know, this is predominantly a male-dominated sector, especially the energy access bit, where you're working to develop engineering systems or operation systems that can get electricity across the country. And similar to what you find in many other countries around STEM, this is typically a male-dominated environment. So to be in this space and to actually learn to negotiate power as a woman, but not just negotiate it from a gendered lens, but negotiate it also from a lens of competency and a lens of credibility, actually adds quite a bit of nuance and context into the work that we do. And part of how I negotiate that power is also by empowering other women. We deliberately hire women in my organization, just so that the more that we're decentralizing power, to focus it more around inclusion and make sure that women and even differentiated groups are brought into conversations around how electricity and resource control is managed. We see that creates a much more robust conversation, much more robust policies, and much easier pathways to getting everybody the energy access that they need and addressing issues around climate change at the same time. I could say more, but I'll stop there for now and just see if other people want to contribute to this particular question.
So I'm going based on the order. There's no discrimination based on the order when they were co-scholars. So next we have Indy from Sri Lanka.
Hi, everyone. It's really great to be here with you all today. Thank you to my fellow panelists and to the GAME team for organizing this. So my name is Indy. I'm from Sri Lanka, though for the past 10 years, I've been based in Doha, Qatar. When Geetka first asked me to sit in on this panel, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, there's so many wonderful, accomplished women out there who work in some really remote corners of our world, with vulnerable communities, often at great risk to their personal lives and that of their families. What am I going to say in this panel? So I shared this to kind of frame the next couple of thoughts that I have cobbled together. Prior coming to Doha in 2008 to 2010, I worked with a local think tank in Sri Lanka, particularly up north in the country, just before the civil war ended and right after, working with internally displaced people, especially women and children that were two major vulnerable groups. And I was young. I had just graduated high school. I was kind of getting my feet wet, in this arena of international relations and development work. I was young and I was a young woman. So that kind of was a baptism by fire, if you will, in working in this field and working with a lot of colleagues who were far more accomplished and who had a lot more, experiences and thoughts and things to share. And then after that, I came to Doha, where I studied at Georgetown University's branch campus out there, and thought I would leave, and then kind of ended up sticking around and ended up working. And now I work in higher ed, in American higher ed, particularly where I do social justice education and leadership development with about 400 undergrads, 18 to 22-year-olds coming from over 60 nationalities at Northwestern University's branch campus out here in Qatar. And I share these two experiences because both these roles have taught me various different things. But in the context of today's panel, I want to share three particular lessons that I have learned. Lesson one was allyship. Especially when I was a young 18-year-old working in the north of Sri Lanka. And then I became a young staff member working for my alma mater for a few years before I moved to Northwestern as well. A lot of who I am today and my thinking and where I am at life, in working in this career that I do now, have been through the allies that I've had around me, particularly women. There are several people on this call today who have helped me immensely. I do have to give a shout out to Naila Sherman, who is here. She's the one who introduced me to this wonderful world of IofC and co. But I've noticed in these kind of, past 12 years, I have had some incredibly strong women, either the same age as me or older than me, really uplift me and teach me things and help frame my worldview. In addition to these wonderful women, I've also had male peers who stood up for me, who fought for me, and helped in that regard. So when I think of this topic of challenges that I faced, my identity and my gender and how they come into play, allyship is so important. And the question that I ask myself and the questions that I challenge my students with that I work is, who are you empowering today, or who are you uplifting? Who are you being an ally to? If you're a woman, are you in allyship with other women? If you are a man, are you in allyship with your fellow women and supporting them? If you are older, are you in allyship with younger people and empowering them? If you are a young person, how confident are you in speaking truth to power and being in allyship with older people and having that kind of intergenerational learring? The other lesson I have learned is privilege. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring that up, because I'm a first generation college student in my nuclear family. My parents didn't go to college. And here I am, a graduate of an American education system. And the tools that I had at my disposal really came from the people around me and from wonderful student development staff at my university. And so in my current role, I feel like I'm giving back in that regard. But along with that privilege and that access to education, it really broadened my view and opened me to so many perhaps certain kinds of things that I had internalized, perhaps even racism or discrimination that I hadn't felt, that I didn't even know, I was being subjected to, but maybe had kind of felt, and I had dismissed that. And that opened, this whole other world to me of kind of unlearning some things and learning new things. And then also my own implicit biases and things like that. So in the work that I now do with my students, and I think about privilege. And we all have marginalized identities, I believe, but we also have dominant identities. How do these intersect? What is that tension looking like? And how can we support that? And then my final point, I think about empowerment a lot. In the day-to-day grind of my job, when I'm doing administrative work and dealing with emails and things like that, I kind of lose focus on what an absolute privilege and sweet responsibility it is to work with young people who aren't yet jaded, who are full of hope, who come bursting into my office with ideas on how they want to impact change in their university, in their wider communities, as well as larger societies back home. And through my job in Qatar and working with such a diverse group of young people, I have been shown firsthand that beauty and that power and privilege in having these kinds of situations and opportunities and resources to empower young people. So that has kind of been like a lesson throughout this past decade, if you will, and kind of the work that I'm doing that I have learned. So I know there are other panelists who want to share, and also time for Q&A, so I'll stop there. But I hope, for the duration of this panel, these are some things that we can think about as we hear from each other and learn from each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Indy. Mafaz from Iraq. She was in India.
Yeah, my name is Mafaz Al-Dizdar. I'm 30 years old. Actually, I've studied in University of Technology, Chemical Engineering department, but I haven't worked in my specialist before because my interests are kind of different. So I joined the humanitarian field since 2008 when I was a student by supporting or volunteering in the local NGOs that provide support to the people who had been affected by the sectarian war and violence action in Iraq. And then I joined the humanitarian NGOs, the international NGOs officially in 2015. And I had occupied multiple positions in different departments such as administrative, human resources management, and monitoring and evaluation. And actually, when I want to talk about my passion, it would be advocating women's rights when I realized that all the women are not treated fairly, especially in my country or my region. So I started writing essays and poems regarding a lot of women issues and concerns, especially in my country or which are related to my culture. And it had been published in many Facebook pages and accredited in newspapers in Iraq. And then actually, when I started reading about this issue, by reading a lot of books written by Germaine Greer and Simone de Beauvoir, I realized that it's a global issue. And when I've been honored to be a part of CSP program, I met a lot of people who are expert in this field. So I'm still connected with them and learning from them, especially my colleague Erica, who's available with us now. And I feel that I'm very lucky to have this network. Yeah, and I want to mention something. Actually, we have to think about our achievements as a woman. Sometimes we are achieving things not because we are smarter, but we are more lucky than others. So I think that our role as a woman is to afford opportunities to a lot of people or women in order to be more powerful. And sometimes a lot of women, they don't have an idea about their rights. So I think that there's our role here in order to advocate their rights and try to give them an idea about their rights in life.
Thank you, Mahfaz. I know your advocacy is, you are risking your life back at home. And so I'm really grateful for the opportunity to share and to be the voice of the women in Iraq. Soraya is our youngest co-scholar from last year, from last summer, from Afghanistan.
And hello to everyone, and thank you for joining us all today. I'm Soraya from Afghanistan. Currently, I'm living in Budapest and trying to relocation to Cairo to kind of continue my life there, basically. Currently, I'm involved with this foundation called the LaCiel Foundation, where we work with different working groups to strengthen the families and communities. So some of the questions that we always ask ourselves within our working group is that how can we have healthier families and communities? And I think this is very much relevant for today and every other day, because it is often the center of everything where we start our families and communities. Whether it is peace or conflict or trauma, it is our starting point to kind of tackle this kind of issue. And I, aside from working with this foundation, I'm also creating content for startups for social entrepreneurship. But today, all of this aside, I want to pay attention or focus on the personal perspective of peace, and how what I believe in is that peace really does start from our own selves and within our own selves. If we are often conflicted, but we are dealing with, whether it's a pandemic or it's a security issue in our country, or it is the peace process, for example, in Afghanistan, but it's important that we pay attention to ourselves as individuals, as men or women, and take the lead from that very personal place or space, and making sure that the values that we are setting up for peace is the same values that we apply in our work environment, in our families, and in anywhere else that we go. So for the topic of today, this is what I am focused on, and if you have any other idea or comment that you want to bring into discussion, more than welcome. Otherwise, I pass it on to Aurelina. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the four of you. So you have shared different, so your experiences and how important it is to support each other, how important it is to, when we hold a privilege, to be able to use that privilege to speak for others and to open a space for those who might not have the opportunity to either learn about their rights, to better understand how can they be empowered, and also when you hold a space and then you can create a space for others. So what I'm wondering is, what will you have wished that someone will have told you when you were 5 years younger that has to do with this topic of female empowerment? What is the thing that you were like, oh wow, if I could tell my younger self this in terms of female empowerment, what would that be? And maybe we can go in the same order.
That's an interesting question, Elena. I think, I mean, looking back, and I always say this to people, especially young women that I mentor, that there is no harm in being ambitious. There is everything, especially in sub-Saharan Africa where we live. I mean, ambition is considered a dirty word, especially when it's associated with women. And so, one of the things that I try to do is to sort of disabuse that mindset that says you're not supposed to aspire to anything much more than society has defined for you. And it comes at women in several forms. Sometimes they don't even see it coming. You're told that if you get married that you can't have a career. You're told that, if you have babies, then you're, that you're more or less, going to be stunted in your career growth. You're told that if you're too qualified, if you get a PhD, I don't know if this is similar to many other regions, but if you're too qualified or too educated, then you might have a problem with finding a man who's going to live with you. I mean, there are all of this, subliminal messages that are passed on to women as they grow. I'm somebody who has 7 degrees. So I definitely push women, to go to their very limits and tell them, listen, there is nothing stopping you except you. And I think, that's why representation matters. It is important for younger women to see women who look like them and who are like them in places of power and in places of influence and in places of authority. It is so important because when I look back at my career, I had many of those women, actually guiding me. Some of them were bosses, some of them were mentors. And that actually gave me the impetus to say, well, if they can do this and hold down a home and be married and be so accomplished, well, why can't I? The other thing I say to young women is not to let society, my younger self, is not to let society define for you what success means, in any way. I think people need to understand that there are very many ways of doing this thing we call life. And the minute they understand that, it becomes, the ladder through which they begin to view their own accomplishments and begin to take pride in it. I say this as a mother of 3 girls and all girls, because I certainly tell my girls, the only limitations that they have is the ones that they've set for themselves. There is nothing that they cannot do and they cannot be. But I certainly, growing up maybe as a teenager, didn't hear those things reinforced for me. It took me leaving, my comfort zone, my cocoon, to actually hear and see those things. So I think it also starts from the home. We need to actually be very, very mindful and careful about some of the subliminal messages that we pass on to women, young girls. And that is why, like at my organization, I said it, earlier on, I deliberately hire women And it's not because we want to differentiate men. It's because I want women to think that they can do some of those things that I do and other women do. And I feel like when we're talking about something that is as important as electricity, which is so basic in several other countries, and then you're talking about how to get it into rural communities, or you're talking about issues around climate change and how it's impacting homes and communities and people, it is important to give voice to an entire half of a population that is usually left out of this conversation. And so then that's why it's, you know, like when I get as much, because many other organizations aren't hiring them anyway, we push them out. We tell them, go out and be part of this conversation, go for these conferences, go for these meetings, go for these policy discussions, so that when there is a gendered lens we need to apply to those conversations, we make sure that those gender lenses are brought to the table. And I'll tell you a very quick short story. You would not think, for instance, that something like electricity solves domestic violence in Nigeria. We have seen how that is a catalyst for addressing issues of domestic violence, where people that are living in remote, very rural communities, not having electricity, and then not being able to have any productive income, because, you know, if you don't have electricity, then what are you going to do? You know, like there's very little to do. Then you bring renewable energy, you bring solar systems or whatever into their communities, and then you see these women become empowered for the first time and are starting their own businesses, are earning their own incomes, are holding down their own jobs. It makes a difference. And then, you know, some of the women would come to us and say that some of the issues that they're having, you know, with their husbands and the domestic violence they experience at home has reduced or has been eliminated. Why? Because they're no longer asking the man for money for every single thing they need. They're so empowered enough to take care of themselves and their children. So much so that if the man brings money, it's great. If he doesn't, well, look at how much that they're growing. And so these are some of the, you know, little nuances people don't really think about. When we started doing the work, domestic violence wasn't what we wanted to solve. We just wanted people to have electricity. But then here is the gendered lens, where we're now seeing how this empowers women, how this gives them some sort of economic independence, and how they're able to provide for their families and contribute to the home at the same time. So I think these are some of the things that I think women need to see, we need to reinforce, and we need to let them know that, you know, nothing is stopping you, not even when you're 50. You can become anything you want to be at any time you want to be. It's just a mindset shift.
Thank you so much, Ify, for all of what you share. I can relate so much to what you were sharing at the beginning, how important it is that younger generations and others who are our peers hear words of encouragement that maybe we didn't hear in the past. And I think that's definitely key, and to do so with colleagues and friends. Indy.
Sure. Firstly, thanks, Ify. I'm sitting here plotting to see how I can get you to do a Zoom call with some of my students at the university. So Ellie, to your question of, you know, what would I have told myself 5 years ago? I think one of the first things I would say is you are enough. And I say that because I look at sometimes opportunities that I haven't taken up, or, you know, kind of, you know, hedge around instead of really going for something when some of my other peers have done so. And a lot of that was due to self-doubt, as well as this kind of pressure that maybe not necessarily from society around me, but my perception, where I put on myself saying, if I do this and I screw it up, it's going to reflect badly on women. And an entire gender, it's going to reflect badly on South Asian women. And I, you know, put myself in those kinds of situations. So kind of looking back, I would say, telling myself definitely, and what I now tell some of my students is, you are enough. And starting with that, and starting with that platform of, you know, where you are right now in your life, with whatever background, whatever resources, opportunity, just start there. That's more than enough. And there's a long journey ahead, but it'll be okay. So that's what I would tell myself 5 years ago.
Thank you so much, Indy. That's such a powerful sentence. I mean, yes, we are enough. We are enough. That's so important. Thank you. Thank you so much. Mafasa.
Mafas, you're muted.
Okay, so I think that I'm going to tell myself that I have to get rid of my fears and I'm braver than I think. And I used to tell my daughter that whatever you tell yourself, it will turn to a truth. So sometimes she's saying that I'm stupid, and then she say, no, I'm clever, I'm smart. So because she starts believing in this sentence. And also I used to tell our neighbors, they say, and colleagues, especially the younger girls, I'm telling them, be aware of choosing your role model, and also try to liberate yourself from the new beauty standards, and you are beautiful as you are. So I think that these are the main sentences.
Thank you. Thank you for those. I mean, that is such a powerful thing to say, like guiding by example, and how important it is when that we, even when we go to that feels like, oh, I'm so whatever, then to take it back and be like, no, I can create this space for myself. I can reassure myself and just continue. That's great. Thank you. Soraya.
Yes, I would tell my younger self to never doubt myself, but also to never stop imagining. The art of imagination, or the aspect of imagination, it's so important that I think we don't pay attention to it enough. If we have a goal, if we have any purpose in life, if we are firstly not able to imagine it in our mind, then manifestation of that goal becomes a bit problematic with a lot of doubts. So making sure that that imagination is as solid and as clear as possible, and not doubting it, would be some of the things I would tell myself.
That's great, Soraya. Thank you. I mean, the power of imagination is so important to just think of a different future, think of all of the possibilities, all of what we have been told that we cannot do as women, and then to create something that is really already inside of us, but might not be externally in the world. I think that that's really key. So now we would like to open up for questions from all of you. So you can either put them on the chat or raise your hands with the raise hand tool here on Zoom. And we are really happy to take your questions. So who would like to ask? Or comments as well, if you also have comments. Here we have a raised hand. Cheryl, please, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Good morning, team. It's more of a comment. I really want to commend these ladies for the awesome job they're doing. I see and I can foresee much growth for our future. With these young leaders, there is hope. I admire the fact that I don't remember a presenter that talks about the little thing as electricity that empowers females. I've never thought of life like that, the things that can really spiral or send a ripple effect on improving life and circumstances. And as I listen to her, I start looking at little things in our community or in our own country that really can eliminate some of the social problems that we have. Again, I commend you for this great effort, and I'm learning so much at this age from this. Kudos.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cheryl.
You're welcome.
Who else would like to ask a question or make a comment?
if I may add a little bit about the video, making the video when we were reaching out to our alumni and talk about peace, some of them said that it's really difficult for them at this time to say something positive about peace because they don't really believe in peace. And so I was wondering if the panelists could say a little bit about what does peace mean to you? What is peace in your life? Ify, do you want to start again?
Ooh, wow. So I always start with what peace is not. It's not the absence of trouble, or it's not the absence of worry. I mean, when I do describe peace, it is looking at it as a journey towards fulfillment and finding your inner joy and your inner fulfillment. It is, it goes back to the question that Elena asked earlier on, 5 years, 10 years ago. Some of the things that worried me then, I mean, when I look back, I wonder why I was so worried and why I was so tense and why I was so anxious, right? Because with the benefit of hindsight, hindsight being, 20/20 or 50/50, none of those things matter in the scheme of where my life is right now. It was not by my own power or some supernatural power that I sorted those things out. Things normally do tend to find, as they say in Nigeria, water finds its level, right? So when we talk about peace, I think, one of the things I caution people about is, it is actually you not giving brain space to something that is going to steal your joy. Do not rent your brain space or your brain matter out to something that is going to significantly take away life from you. And when I became a mother, that became something that I consciously did. I've been a mother for about 7 years now. So that, I decided that I wanted to be alive for my daughters. And so I consciously made an effort not to, by the time I'm going to bed, everything that has happened for that day, I pack it somewhere, go to bed, and then hit the reset button the next morning and start all over again. Because it is a journey. It is a journey. It's not something, that you're going to say, well, because you're always going to have things that come up, sooner or later. What's important is how you deal with it, and how I deal with it. How I find my peace is to make sure that at the end of the day, I understand that that day's trouble has ended, and that the next morning it's a whole new day for me to hit a reset button and start right from the beginning.
Thank you, Ify. I just wanted to bring something up. In addition to the question that Jidka asked, we have other questions also on the chat. So if one of you would like to address any of the questions that are here, and I'll also ask Florina if you can type your questions so that our panelists can see it. So you can choose which one to respond to, just in the interest of time. I know that we might not be able to cover all of the questions, so I just wanted to bring that up for the panelists. Thank you.
Ellie, do you want to read the questions?
So we have, sure. We have one of appreciation to Indy from Kavita, that it really inspires her to see her, and she can relate to being the first generation of college goers. Oops, this is moving fast. What are some of your biggest challenges in the transition? Then there is a question from Heather about what changes do you hope to see or imagine for the generations of women that will come after you? There's one question from Donna also. As a woman doing the work that you do, was there any obstacles, just choose one, that you haven't foreseen? What was it and how did you overcome it? Then there's another one from Kavita. Oh, sorry, this is moving really fast. What are the challenges to work with the nuances that our society puts on us in terms of roles? Also another question for Nidhi. Could you share events where you have faced sexism and discrimination as a woman in a patriarchal society? Another one from Sava, how can you keep this energy circulating and to keep the good work going? And another one, like note on appreciation. So a lot of different topics. So I know this is a tough process. So to you, with the questions that you would like to speak to, please go ahead.
Sure, I can jump in, Ellie. Kavita, you specifically asked me what were some of my biggest challenges in this transition. And I think one of my biggest challenges was I didn't really have a roadmap. I didn't have a family member be able to tell me this is what college is like, right? I kind of showed up on day one and tried to figure it out, which is why having staff who showed such care and concern for me and having mentors really, really helped. So I think, you know, and this kind of bleeds into some of the other questions that are coming up in the chat. And one of the things I really do hope for young women and just young people in general is that we are able to find meaningful ways in which young people can be mentored. I think that is really, really important. And I know Ifi touched upon that as well in the work that she does, mentoring young women too. I think that is absolutely vital. And I think there is so much of space and potential for knowledge sharing and that kind of intergenerational wisdom to pass hands in both directions in some ways. And, you know, I mean, in an ideal world, that is what I would love to see. And it, you know, kind of, one of the other thoughts I was thinking of was on this topic of like what peace means to me. I think a big thing is emotional resilience. And I think all of these things are tied together, you know, true inner peace, having those opportunities and resources, having people believe in yourself, believing in you, but also you believing in yourself. And sometimes just being able to see yourself the way that your biggest cheerleaders see you, I think go a long way in kind of having that emotional resilience to be creative, to dream, and to tackle these challenges that are around us.
Soraya, Mafas?
I can jump into some of the questions. So Heather asked, what do we wish to see for the future generation of women, or women now? I think I really would like to see more women in the leadership and decision-making positions, and making sure that whenever their space is taken, that they speak up and they are very much involved. So I can give an example with the peace process right now in Afghanistan. And there has been a lot of discussions with the involvement of women in this peace process to make sure that their rights and everything is included within their agreements. But it's been a topic that has been discussed as a part of the memo by mostly men. So it is not the women who are actually talking on their own behalf. So this is just a simple political example that how like it's different than being in the leadership positions and in the decision-making process than being a subject to be talked about. So this is my wish, and not only within the peace process but anywhere in the world. I think there is always a need for women leaders and women in decision-making positions, and this is something that I would like to see more and more, and encourage my fellow women to do so. And Donna asked that if there has been any challenges in the work that we do that we did not see coming. Absolutely, yes. I think most of the challenges are scenarios that we did not see them coming. But personally, reflecting on this, like I always have had a plan, goals, different purposes in life. And whenever I have carried them, no matter whatever challenge that came my way, I always have tried to resolve it until I started until I lost a family member of mine. And then for me, everything became very meaningless in terms of like my work, my space in professional work and everything. Basically, I lost motivation for so many months. But this is something that I did not see coming, because I really thought that I am ready for anything, and I'm ready to deal with anything, especially coming from Afghanistan. I've seen everything, I've seen war, and nothing is going to be the problem. But at the end of the day, we are human, and there is always things that we are coming to experience as we grow. And it's important that we come from a place of groundness and a place of patience to kind of tackle these challenges, no matter if they are emotional, technical, or however they are. I think I'm going through so many questions, but I just would like to refer to Sabo, who asked that how can we keep this flow of empowerment and energy. My answer to that is, like, we are often thinking about a very small bubble or within our own community or wherever we are, and we have to make sure that thinking changes to a worldwide thinking. For example, now we are here in this call, 32 of us from all around the world. It is creating a bigger network that is much bigger than any other lack of motivation, for example. So making sure that we often think about that there is always people just like us on the other side of the world, perhaps thinking about the same kind of issue, struggling with the same kind of challenges, give us like a peace of mind that we are not alone. And that sense is something that assures me of the energy, assures me of the empowerment. And so that would be my answer to that.
If I could just jump in here and also just speak very quickly to Nidhi's question, and also I think Saba's question on how to keep the energy circulating. I'm just going to answer all of them in one way. I think it's important for women to just keep showing up. Keep showing up. It gets hard, dig in harder. Just keep showing up. At some point, something would give. And that goes to, I think, what Indy said earlier on about, having emotional resilience. I love that. I actually am taking that as my own major takeaway from here, because something will give. The world will give space at some point. And it's that resilience when you just keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. Somebody will pay attention at some point. I mean, none of us on the panel, and I'm sure none of the people who do similar work, even amongst the participants or across the globe, that have worn the shoes we're wearing or that will wear the shoes we're wearing, will have it easy. But just keep showing up. And like I said, I started off in the electricity sector when I used to be the only woman in the room with about 50 to 100 men. And I look around now with the work that we have done, getting women in leadership positions, to see, in a room of 50, that there are at least 20 other women. If anybody had told me 10 years ago that this was even remotely a possibility, I would have said no. But no matter how hard it gets, go home, cry, wipe your tears, wear your big girl pants, and show up the next day. Right. Keep showing up.
Thank you, Evie. Before I give you the floor, Mafaz, I'm just conscious of time, and I know, Indy, that you have other commitments. So thank you so much for being together with us in this call, and we'll keep in touch. Mafaz, please go ahead.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of difficult to talk about peace since I'm living in Iraq, which is suffering from crisis since I've born, actually. So I think that our role is to create a circle of peace around us. So we have to try to create an environment of peace in order to trying to achieve what we are looking for. And actually, about the things that keep us strong is to think that a lot of people are relying on us, especially when I think about my daughter, that she's relying on me, and she's getting the power from me. So I think that this is the point. And actually, regarding the obstacles, maybe our work, it seems basic for a lot of people, but I think, or I believe that the nature of work depends on the environment that you are working in, because the change should be gradually in order to be permanent.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the four of you. This was a really great panel. I wish we could continue the conversation, but we know that you all have other activities. So we're super grateful to all of you. Also, again, I want to acknowledge all of our alumni who contributed with the different videos to the video that you watched at the very beginning. We will be sharing this video in our social media and then in our website. Not all of the videos, we couldn't put all of the videos in this video that we showed today, but we will be having some follow-up videos. I also put in the chat a link to a short Mentimeter, so you can tell us how this session was. And Jirka is gonna also share in the chat the next conversations that we will have this week. So tomorrow is gonna be Lebanon. Then on Wednesday, we're gonna talk about the Lead Lives Matter with experiences from India and Nepal. On Thursday, we're going to have a conversation about international solidarity and learning across movements, Black Lives Matter and the Lead Lives Matter. And then on Friday, we're going to have an intergenerational conversation, actually, with two of our alumni, Samuel Doe and Charanpreet Kaira. So thank you so much to our panelists. It's been an honor to share the floor with you today. And thank you to all of you for participating and for your questions. And we really hope that this was, as you have shared, an uplifting conversation, a challenging conversation, and that you continue to have a lovely rest of your day, night, morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm gonna just briefly share here your input from Mentimeter.
Happy International Day to everyone, and hope to see you at other events. Thank you. It was
Thank
fun.
you.
Bye.
Okay.
Samdo joined late, so I want to acknowledge him, but we'll see you on Friday.
I want to take a picture, a Zoom picture. Do you know how to do it, Jitka?
Yeah, I took a lot, so we'll be following.
Oh, okay.
Be sharing. We are recording the video, so we'll be sharing the recordings with all of you. But I took a lot of screenshots, and we'll follow with all of you. We'll follow up with all of you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, and stay blessed.
Thank you so
very
much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.